On September 10th, 1993, the pilot episode of The X-Files premiered. Simple arithmetic would suggest that that was 30 years ago. Now, that's obviously impossible. It couldn't have been more than 20 years max. Right? Right? The X-Files original series ran for 9 seasons and 202 episodes from 1993 until 2002. This includes a pair of feature films, Fight the Future and I Want to Believe, the latter appearing 6 years after the original series finale. The show would experience a revival in 2016 with a modern, shorter 10th and 11th season before its ultimate cancellation in 2018. The franchise also includes novels, comic books, video games, action figures, and a whole ton of miscellaneous merchandise. Yeah. The X-Files is my favorite television show. But I have a troubled relationship with it. I'm reminded of the opening line of A Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of shows. It was the worst of shows. It was writing of wisdom. It was writing of foolishness. I think that's right. I haven't read that in a long time. It had more good to great episodes than bad episodes. But the bad episodes, some of them important, were just tragedies. How did it get there? How did it get to be a cultural phenomenon? Why should you watch it? Or rewatch it?
Do you believe in the existence of extraterrestrials?
Let's start with a bit of personal context. I want you to imagine a different world, a bygone era. The early 1990s, rural West Virginia. A magazine arrives in the mail. That was a physical book delivered to your home on generally a monthly basis, and it corresponded to one of your interests.
Visitors from space?
I think I was getting Nintendo Power, probably National Geographic at the time. In this case, however, opening the mailbox revealed the fall preview issue of TV Guide. Now, in those days, television was not on demand, so you needed a guide to help you manage this rigid, uncompromising television schedule. Because you either watched a show when it aired, or you waited 6 months until there was a rerun. No real getting around that, unless you were one of those fancy folks with the VCR to record your programs.
Picture this. Crystal clear television. 33 channels worth, with no monthly cable bill.
For perspective, at the time, I think we could pick up 4 TV stations. 5 if we were lucky. Remember, this is standard definition, an antenna on the roof. This all means that there just wasn't much to choose from. Now that I think about it, we did get MPT, Maryland's public broadcasting station, and they used to show the original series of Doctor Who at like 11:30 on Saturday nights. That was kind of nice. In '93, the Fox network was still relatively young. It's younger than I am. And they were trying to compete with the big 3 networks. So they were constantly in need of new and better programming. According to that fall preview TV guide, they had a whole new slate of shows for that September. The Fox executives knew they had a surefire hit for Friday night. The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr., starring that handsome devil Bruce Campbell.
No, I must have the wrong place.
Then at 9 p.m. they had this weird show called The X-Files. Here's one of their TV promos. Unsolved cases. Unexplained phenomena. Secrets that were never meant to be uncovered. Tonight, two FBI agents will dare to open the X-Files. Another tagline: don't watch it alone. So you're telling me there's a show with two good-looking actors who are about to investigate UFOs, the paranormal, and bizarre monsters? I was instantly hooked. I wasn't going to miss this show for anything. To be fair, Briscoe County Jr. looked pretty good too. So, with the 30th anniversary upon us, I have a proposal. I'm going to discuss the X-Files, episode by episode, mixing in some relevant biographies and items of special interest. Hopefully do that at a fairly regular interval. And if my eyes aren't bigger than my stomach, do the entire series. So, we are going to start today, right now, with an abridged origin of the X-Files.
That's why we like you, Mulder. Your ideas are weirder than ours.
It was created by a man named Chris Carter, who, at face value, has always appeared to me to be the quintessential Southern California boomer. That he is of the baby boom generation is actually relevant to the show's origin. Before I get too far in on Chris, he will of course get his own episode in the future. But let me start with a sort of exaggerated metaphor here. To this show, he is both Daedalus and Icarus. On one hand, this innovative, seemingly prescient creator, and on the other, this distracted, short-sighted, complacent writer who flew too close to the sun. So, I have some mixed feelings about his work.
Which one of you wrote this?
I did, sir.
You spelled Federal Bureau of Investigation wrong.
Carter's footprint in TV was fairly small then. He had worked as a writer for Disney films and then had developed a few pilots for NBC of the family comedy type. The network didn't pick any of them up, and obviously that was very fortunate in hindsight. Chris's revelation here would be that TV was missing a good, scary mystery thriller. He said in interviews that his primary inspiration was Kolchak the Night Stalker, which consisted of a couple of TV movies and a TV series in 1975. Coincidentally, that was one of my mom's favorite TV shows. It starred Darren McGavin as Carl Kolchak, a roving reporter investigating strange murders and weird crimes happening in the night. He uncovered this secret world populated by the classic supernatural monsters like zombies, werewolves, and vampires.
Well, it's obviously not a vampire.
Well, why not?
Because they don't exist?
His other big inspiration was the Watergate scandal, and the film detailing it, All the President's Men. The synopsis is, Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein, a pair of intrepid investigative journalists for the Washington Post, have discovered that the Nixon White House was secretly covering up the Watergate break-in, along with a wide-ranging conspiracy of other felonious activities. In Carter's inspirations, he consciously or subconsciously tapped into a persistent set of cultural undercurrents, a kind of American mythology, where fiction becomes reality and reality becomes fictionalized. There are three primary elements to it. The first is the UFO phenomenon. Americans have a long history of seeing unidentified flying objects. The modern mythic foundation is the Roswell incident in 1947. The subsequent years produced numerous sightings and encounters all across the country. In 1969, future president, then governor of Georgia, Jimmy Carter, claimed to have seen a UFO. We've had some famous encounters right here in West Virginia. The Flatwoods Monster down in Braxton County, and everyone's favorite, the Mothman, from John Keel's famous book, The Mothman Prophecies. But sightings and brief encounters are only half the story. There are also claims of physical abductions, people forcibly taken by alien life forms to be studied, experimented on, or otherwise held captive for a period of time and then released. Some reported that this experience was peaceful, while others said it was terrifying and nightmarish. That brings us to number 2, New Age mysticism and the paranormal. Neither has a fully agreed upon definition. It's one of those things that you know it when you see it. Both are better to be understood as umbrella terms to cover a broad set of ideas. I'm going to simplify here, but the New Age movement was largely born out of the 60s counterculture. The status quo was being rejected, and the kids were looking for new answers. They found a lot of novel and non-Western spiritual paradigms appealing. Think the Beatles traveling to India and studying with the Maharishi Yogi. New Age included, but was not limited to, Wicca, astrology, crystal power, yoga, meditation, reinterpretation of aspects of Hinduism and Buddhism, closely associated with parts of the environmentalist movement and anarcho-primitivism. Also, a cottage industry of cults and new religious sects popped up overnight, eager to get their hands on disillusioned boomers' cash. Now, one of the places that the paranormal and New Age overlap was with psychic powers. Things like ESP, telekinesis, and remote viewing. Uri Geller is an example of one of these psychokinetic practitioners. I wonder what he's up to these days. If you are of a certain age, you might remember a popular series by Time Life Books called Mysteries of the Unknown. They had some great commercials.
I was thinking of my childhood friend the other day. I hadn't thought of her for years. Then all of a sudden the phone rings, and it's her. You tell me that's coincidence?
There's a word for it, the paranormal. And it's one of the biggest issues of our age. Now, Time Life Books brings you Mysteries of the Unknown that looks into every area, from ESP to precognition to alien encounters, to give you all the sides.
I never thought I would believe in it until it happened to me.
She looks familiar. It was a massive 33-volume set, sold in the late 80s, that basically covered everything paranormal. It was at the time, and it might still be Time Life's best-selling series ever. If you want to see a truly wonderful send-up of the New Age, then you should watch Adult Swim's Lords of Synth live at the Necropolis. I personally think it's a masterpiece. I will link to it in the secret vault below. So we have the UFO phenomenon, the paranormal New Age, and our third and final puzzle piece, post-war paranoid conspiracy. In 1964, historian Richard Hofstadter wrote an essay titled The Paranoid Style in American Politics. In it, he decried the wild accusations of McCarthyism and the dangerously pervasive conspiracy theories that were consuming the political discourse at the time. He also noted that there was a projective aspect to these, accusing your enemies of the thing you're actively doing. For instance, accusing North Korea of brainwashing American POWs at exactly the same time the CIA was using MKUltra techniques on captive Koreans. So a volatile psychological and political environment emerged as the Cold War developed. And this is right in the middle of the formative years of the baby boomers. Oh yeah, and this happened. JFK blown away, what else do I have to say? Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun.
Check it out, Mulder. I had breakfast with the guy who shot John F. Kennedy.
Is that so?
Old dude now, but yeah. Says he was dressed as a cop on the grassy knoll.
As it happens, this year is the 60th anniversary of the Kennedy assassination. An event that has absolutely haunted the American psyche ever since. There were also dozens of leaks and scandals. The Pentagon Papers, the Gulf of Tonkin incident. I mentioned Watergate and MKUltra. There's the Tuskegee experiments and Iran-Contra, just to name a few. Take all of these, then add a host of unethical and illegal corporate malfeasance, and you have a recipe for a growing and deep-seated mistrust of both the government and corporate worlds.
You're telling me that the U.S. government, the same government that gave us Amtrak,
Not to mention the Susan B. Anthony dollar.
is behind some of the darkest, most far-reaching conspiracies on the planet? That's just crazy.
I mean, like, this guy works for the government.
There was also a small but popular group of conspiracy-themed films at this time that played on the sentiment. They've since been dubbed the 70s paranoid thrillers. Films like The China Syndrome, The Parallax View, Capricorn 1, or 3 Days of the Condor. That was a good one. So there are more than enough conspiracy theories, real or imagined, to go around for everybody. As for the current state of this American mythology, it persists. UFOs are back in the news. Stranger Things is evidence enough that people still love the paranormal.
Why do we even need weapons anyway? We have her.
She shuts one door.
With her mind. Are you kidding me? That's insane.
Conspiracy theories really aren't much of a problem anymore. So Carter was able to shape these ideas into a series pitch to Fox. It was rejected. Their initial concern was all this paranormal stuff seemed too corny. So he honed the pitch and gave it another try, this time a success. They would approve it in late '92, and Chris had the green light to shoot a pilot starting in the spring of '93. At around this time, Carter had read a recent work by Harvard psychologist John Mack, including a contemporary survey that reported as many as 3 million Americans believed they had been physically abducted by extraterrestrials. In March of '93, at the same time the X-Files pilot was filming, a new movie was released called Fire in the Sky. It was a based on true events story about a man named Travis Walton who had allegedly been abducted by alien life forms. I distinctly remember this movie scaring the shit out of teenage me. But for Chris, these recent events signaled to him that they were about to catch lightning in a bottle.
Anyway, that's when you had your big breakthrough. whatever.
He decided, famously, to subvert the traditional TV trope, and he paired an emotional, impulsive, vibes-based male character, the believer, with a analytical, even-tempered scientist female character, the skeptic.
I keep having this dream. It's about a little blonde girl.
You're saying that you're out here because of something you saw in a dream?
Who could he get to play these roles? Now, this is just a pilot. There isn't much cash on hand. To hear Carter tell it, the leading candidate was always David Duchovny, and conveniently, he had recently played an FBI agent and trans woman on NBC's surreal but canceled Twin Peaks. According to Duchovny, at the time, he saw his future as a feature film actor, and he really wasn't interested in doing any more television work. But he liked the pilot script, and he thought, maybe I can get a Vancouver vacation out of this deal, and then move on to my next movie role.
It's crazy, Mulder. There is nothing to support that.
Nothing scientific, you mean?
Filling the role of the female character was considerably more contentious. Gillian Anderson was virtually unknown and just 24 years old. She read against a lot of competition in multiple editions, but she immediately scored high with Carter. On the other hand, the Fox executives didn't see it. They were looking for someone warmer and more likable and maybe more of a blonde bombshell type, which is really funny in retrospect. Even after the screening of the pilot, there were several dissenting voices calling for Anderson to be replaced in the series. Carter's point of pride here was he basically said, I'm not doing this without her. If she goes, I go. So, credit where credit's due. Chris, hey, good choice on Jill.
You're damn right.
That's it. This is episode 0. Your introduction or reintroduction to the X-Files. 2 things. 1, a question. If you remember, how and when did you first hear about the X-Files? I am genuinely curious. 2, obviously, go and watch the pilot. Season 1, episode 1. We'll meet back here next time and talk about it. Oh, by the way, my name is Jason. Hi, everybody. Goodbye, everybody.